Oh, Batman, am I your best man? And welcome back to Comic Frontline, everybody. I am Brant Fowler, aka the Gonzo Goose, back with you for another episode of Brant's Weekly Comic Rankings, the series where I run down each and every book that I have read each week and rank them for your viewing pleasure, and so you, the fans, can give me feedback, tell me what you thought about the books this week, and we'll see if we agree and just have a good comic conversation. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I read 19 books this week, so coming in at number 19 was Infinity Countdown number 4. Honestly, I just don't understand because Jerry Duggan is a good writer. I've enjoyed him on Nova, I've enjoyed him on Deadpool, I've enjoyed him on other things. This book is just not doing it for me. The jokes aren't clicking, the character drama is not there, the plot seems thin and contrived. Just not feeling it, and the art was just not good in this issue. Number 18 for me, Ant-Man and the Wasp, number 1, as Scott Lang and Janet Van Dyne travel into the microverse. Conceptually sounds pretty good. Infinity Countdown was really the only book I really just did not like at all, so everything from this point on is just like various levels of like, and this one was just okay for me. The story did not grab me, and honestly though, I've never really been a fan of the microverse stories, so that probably had something to do with it. Number 17 for me, Batman Prelude to the Wedding, Nightwing versus Hush. This story was just pointless. I understand that they got to the point with the revelation that Joker's kind of been going around to all the villains and kind of filling them in on the wedding, and so all of a sudden they're coming out of the woodwork and attacking. But unlike the Ra's al Ghul Robin one, which was just fun in parts of it, this one was just kind of boring. So I just wasn't feeling this one. Number 16 for me, Dazzler X Song number 1. Yes, I did read it because Kat is a big fan and I wanted to give it a shot. And honestly, I didn't realize it was a one-shot. For some reason, I had it in my head it was going to be an ongoing. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Kat kept screaming for an ongoing. But anyway, this was an okay story. I didn't understand why Colossus was there, of all people, and why he was the only one there. But her transition, and I understand that the issue took place over probably a series of weeks because she was at several concerts. But the transition from her being, oh, I'm not going to be a superhero anymore, to, by the end of the issue, sure, I'll think about it. And then she's returning to Astonishing X-Men. It was just too quick, too easy, and the plot to get her there was kind of thin. Number 15 for me, Immortal Hulk, number 1. Honestly, I wasn't a fan of this. The art, I thought, could have been a lot better, could have been a lot stronger, especially the way the Hulk was illustrated. It did have that classic feel, that classic Hulk feel. It looked like something out of a 70s comic book, but I'm just not a fan of that style. I thought there were a few missteps in the art direction here, and the story, while interesting again conceptually, just did not grab me this time. Number 14, X-Men Red, number 5. Speaking of things that did not grab me, this was probably the lowest issue of this series for me thus far, and I think it's because Gabby and Laura took a back seat on this one and were barely in it, and they are the charm of the book for me. I like Jean Grey, but since the series has began, she's very serious and very tunnel vision, and Gabby and Laura kind of break that up, but you didn't get that breaking up here. Number 13 for me, Cloak and Dagger number 1. This was a surprise release on Comixology, and so I had to check it out because I'm a Cloak and Dagger fan, and I thought this was a decent first issue. I liked that they set up right at the get-go that Cloak and Dagger, for whatever reason, are on the outs. I'm assuming that'll be explored throughout, and then we get a mystery involving Cloak kind of unfolding, at least we assume it's involving Cloak, unfolding as we go. So I thought it was an interesting first issue, and great timing, of course, perfect timing with the Hulu show, or Freeform show. I watched it on Hulu. Alright, so number 12 for me, Death and Glory number 2. This one fell quite a bit for me. This was in my top 5 for the first issue. This issue didn't impress me quite as much. I felt like the first issue was high octane. Okay, there's a purpose in what she's doing, and this one was just kind of slowed down almost to a crawl, and kind of shock value with the level that all the bad guys in it will go to, and it felt a little forced. Number 11 for me, Paper Girls number 21. There were a few great panels in this book, and I still love this book, and I love these characters, and usually this book finds its way in my top 5. This issue, I didn't feel like there was enough progression, so that's why it's so low. Number 10 for me, getting into my top 10, Strangers in Paradise 25. Number 4. This was, again, it was another issue that not a lot happened, but it was so entrenched in the world of Strangers in Paradise, just the way you would expect things to come about for Kat. Her being sick and kind of letting Stephanie slip through her fingers and having to be rescued by a cleanup crew. It was very interesting and very important part of the story, but it was very much just kind of let's get from point A to point B now kind of filler story. Number 9, Archie number 31, and we're getting into the books that I really enjoyed this week. Archie number 31 I thought was a solid issue. It wasn't as good as some of the previous issues have been, but seeing Jason and Cheryl's father come into play and kind of take the entire school hostage was intense for Archie. And also I love the fact that Archie, like if this was classic Archie, when Archie snuck up with the guitar, either he would fall and bumble and somehow that would save the day, or he would actually hit him with the guitar and that would save the day. But here he gets the gun turned on him, and it just shows the difference between classic Archie and this Archie run, and it really sets the tone again if you're coming into this cold. I just really like this issue and like where this particular story is going. Number 8 for me, Wonder Woman Annual number 2. This was a solid story. It was kind of branching off from the main story arc that's going on in Wonder Woman right now, which it brought me back into Wonder Woman. And I thought this was a very good story, delving back into Blackest Night days and Wonder Woman Star Sapphire days, and she battles a god and has to defeat him with love, which I thought was just, it really spoke to what the Star Sapphires are all about. You know, it wasn't just like, I'm not going to fight you kind of thing. It was a different manifestation of love. It's like, I'm going to show you how much I love you by throwing a sword through your chest. It makes sense in the story though, so it was a really good side story. It wasn't necessary for the telling of the Stark Gods story, but it was a nice little side step. Number 7, Isola number 3. This is from Image, and this is a beautiful book. If you guys haven't checked this one out, artistically this book is gorgeous. It just really is, and I've enjoyed it, but it's been kind of on the fringes of my picks. And again, here it is, number 7. But I really like the story that they're telling. Basically, it's this girl who, her queen has been turned into a tiger, and she's trying to get her from one place to another. But now the tiger has wandered off. Now people are looking for it, and they've taken the girl hostage. And you learn that there's more to the relationship between the queen and this girl Rook, as this issue progresses, and you see some glimpses to the past as the queen is remembering things, and things are just starting to unfold, and you're getting into more of the mystical side of the story now. So I enjoyed this issue. Number 6, Deadpool number 1. This one almost made my top 5. If you guys read my written reviews on Comic Frontline's Frontline reviews on Friday, I gave this one a pretty high score. I thought Scotty Young really nailed the voice of Deadpool. It takes a specific kind of writer to write characters like Deadpool and Harley Quinn and those kind of characters, and I think he really gets that style. And I love the banter between him and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and you know, it felt like the Deadpool from the movies, and I think that was intentional, and I thought it was a solid first issue for this volume. Alright, getting into my top 5. Number 5, Man of Steel number 2. I actually had to read this one twice. At first I had doubts about it, and then I read it again, and I was like, you know what, I actually do like this. But the reason it is lower on my rankings is because while the lead part of the story I thought was solid, and that 2-page spread where we got a glimpse as to what's going on with Lois and John was really well done. It was that back end of the book that kind of lost me a little bit. But after reading it a second time, I felt like the stuff with Perry White really sold that part of the story, so it kind of bumped it up into my top 5. So, number 4, Hunt for Wolverine, Weapon Lost, number 2. I really enjoyed this issue. The first one, I understand people had complaints about how this team came together, and it was just kind of, they were thrust into it, but this team kind of makes sense for me now, and the way things progressed for their hunting Wolverine, and how they were led kind of astray and led down this path and that path, and then they finally get there and they're still led astray, and what happens to Cypher at the end of the book was just wow. That was a really powerful scene, and we still don't know if this is Logan or not, so it's very interesting, and I'm liking where this one is going. Number 3, X-Men Gold, number 39. This was another one I had to read twice, because at first I think I rushed through it, and I got most of the action, but I missed some of the emotional beats, and reading Kat's panels, top 5 panels of the week, I was like, man, maybe I need to revisit this and see if I get something a little bit more out of it. And I did. I did feel like those emotional beats and like the flashback of Kitty when she finds out, Colossus is hurt and everything, and kind of tying it into the present where he's once again being hurt, and Colossus summoning the strength within him to lift the debris off the ship so they could escape before the station explodes, and just these character beats throughout it really kind of sold me on it on a second read, so that's why it gets number 3. Number 2, Justice League, number 1. I thought this was a fantastic first issue. This felt like classic Justice League. You've got most of the original founders back together. You've got a few new members. It feels kind of like a meshing of that classic Justice League with the cartoon Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and toss in a couple of other characters, and toss in Super Friends, and toss in Vandal Savage, and then you've got an extinction level threat. You've got Martian Manhunter once again as the heart of the team. This was a really solid issue that, it kind of blew me away. There was only one book that really outdid it for me, and so let's talk about my number 1, which is Batman number 48. This was an incredible story about Joker wanting to be Batman's best man, and not really, but you know what I mean. That's been Joker's kind of MO, especially when you look back at Batman the Animated Series and various key stories throughout Batman's fictional biography, is that the Joker, he sees himself not only as Batman's counter, but also as Batman's equal, Batman's best friend. He sees himself as the other side of the coin. So to go about this in this way, it was just brilliant storytelling. He goes into a church during a wedding, and he's killing everybody. He's taking hostages and shooting them before he finishes negotiating, and he's like, oops, well, I've got another one, and he shoots Batman, and he takes himself hostage, and it sounds goofy, and it sounds just unrealistic, but when you read it, and the way it was paced by Tom King and the artist, I forget who the artist was, but just the marriage of art and story here, and the characterization of Joker and Batman standing silent and kind of brooding, but kind of handling him with kid gloves because he knows what he's capable of, and even going so far as to kneel and pray with him at the altar, which is when he asks if he's his best man before it explodes. And this was just brilliant storytelling. All the beats were there. It's funny because there were several panels in our top 5 panels this week, and we all picked different panels, and we were all pointing out this was a fantastic issue, but this page just made me laugh out loud, or this page said this to me, and we all picked different moments, and I thought that was a testament of how brilliant the storytelling was in this book. So there you go. Those are my rankings for this week. I'd love to hear what you thought about the books this week in the comments below. Let me know. We can have a discussion. And of course, you can follow me at Brant Fowler on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, also Brant Fowler, for Monday musings. Each and every Monday, I've got a couple of hauls going up this week, so check those out. And you can find me on Zone 4 Podcast and Last Number Press all across social media, those websites when they get back up. And of course, Comic Frontline Live, our live show tonight, where we talk about our top 5s, worst picks, and news. And each and every week, Frontline reviews, top 5 panels, everything Comic Frontline. Check it out. So until next time, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.